Well, hello there. everyone. Here to talk about right here is like for weather shelter safety and talking about right here. I have right here is I went ahead and drew right here is like a little picture right here. I went ahead and sketch right here using the pen tool, and I know that this can probably use just a more likely yeah, more work, especially around like this right here would be example right here of me as like just to kind of demonstrate about more likely like a place where we would need to take a shelter in case if the weather does get bad. And you see right here is a picture diagram right here of like a window. And I'm sure that like anybody can think about, I'm like, yeah, that something like something that you may not see every day, and you're like Warren to where that you would maybe like to look out the window just to see what the weather is doing, but then at the same time it's like you have safety first, and then the thing about you do not put your harms in the way, but on your hand that don't put yourself in danger. But other than that, that you have right here is an example right here of like for what you should not do and what you should do is that have right here move to the lowest floor of the building with emergency supplies. And then that for a sturdy location, away from windows. So we're like worried to where the first thing that we may think about whenever we're working on something, and that let's just say tornado sirens were going off or something like that, or that we had, if we had to evacuate, somewhere due to the weather or some kind, and we're like warned to where that, yeah, see what it's doing outside, and you have right here as an example right here some rain droplets, but on your hand that you're like warned to where that a lot of times that you why is it that maybe to where that that we may think that we're going to be curious to know about what's going on outside. So we're like warned to where why is it that we may think that we should not stay away from windows. And at one of those, like yeah, windows can break easily, especially for high winds, and especially if they're not the real sturdy, strong kind. And on your hand too with the with the glass, the dangerous glass, and heavy debris that falls around you, especially. But besides tornadoes, it could be hurricanes as well, and other sorts of weather patterns. But on the other hand, that like for like between the month of April and May, that we may see some severe weather coming, and when and just think about for what all that we need to do, for taking shelter. And the way I went and drew this right here is like, yeah, I using right here as a pen tool to draw some of these and using a blue right here. But this right here would be like if I would be walking and then be all of a sudden that the tornado sirens or the sirens that go off, and then thinking about I'm like, yep, take cover, and then on a TV they may mention or even on the radio did they mention about storm number 475 is like capable of producing nickel-sized hail, damaging winds of gust, a wind gust of 60 mile per hour, stuff like that. So we're like warned to where that yeah that especially for those that do not have a basement, and a lot of times you're like warned to where that what's the best place that we're like be like other than like the bathroom or maybe the closet, but somewhere sturdy. So I would more likely say yeah around in between these two corners of the wall, and then a lot of time from what I learned to in schools to where that have a is to to get down on the ground, with your hands covered, over your head, and then up against the wall, so that way, you'll be and a lot of times, I say, well, how does that really help you protect you from any falling debris necessarily? But at the same time, it seems like to where that we may think that get down on our stomach in case of the if the weather does get bad to where why is it that maybe that we need to bend down on against the wall on our stomach or somewhere like that just to take shelter, and especially like during the tornado warnings and stuff like that, and you're like warned to where that for how is our back protected against anything is like for flying debris. But at the same time, I went and drew this right here, and this was like a shadow to where if this was right here was me, and that shadow, it's like thinking about, I'm like, from where the shadow is more like where I'll need to be taking cover it, and thinking about, I'm like, if you need to bring a blanket along with you or some radio just to make sure that, if it was clear or not. So, we're like wanting to where whenever the storm has passed, whenever that the warranty has was allowed to expire. So I'm sure this is the type of training to where if it's going to be anything about maybe fire safety, or if it's going to be for weather shelter safety, is to where anybody that may want to where that yeah, that we may want to pull out our cameras and our watches and tablets, not really just to check the weather, but get some really good footages about what's going on outside. And I know that some will likely say is to where that yeah, that what's the main reason to maybe why people may want to take a photograph of something. Maybe because that well, we don't believe it. We only believe it whenever we see it, or that you were talking about it, but then we would like to see pictures. So let's just say on average to where that if my artwork were to where I would be painting a picture of maybe what a storm cloud would look like, and anybody like wonder to where that 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 don't look like anything usual. I'm like, you may have seen it before, or it's can it get any worse than that? Some kind, but let's just say on average to where that for any type of weather patterns to where that yeah, as long as we handle it safe, and if we can get a picture of what's going on. But other than that, if you gotta get to a safe location, it's like get to a safe location. But anyway, part of the reason about maybe why you like to stay away from windows, and like anything that more likely that could be a result of flying debris, and like just saying, but just too dangerous, especially for like weather patterns going on outside, like tornadoes. Like, and I know that this right here will be example of like an F3 or an F2 tornado, it is, but maybe an F for like an F4 would be real dangerous. But on the other hand, that it's like yeah, that if there's going to be a tornado on the ground, let's just say that it may seem like it's about 300 miles away, but then if it's moving about 40 or 50 mile per hour, or maybe 100 mile an hour, that gives you enough time to get to a safe location, as well as get an emergency kit. So you're like Warren Tour, and I'm sure anybody probably say whenever you're looking at something and you're stunned to the point to where you feel like you're frozen, like you can't really move. You're just it's hard to believe. Oh man, I never seen such a thing, and then by the time it's like so yeah that which I know that maybe a tornado depending on where the location is, like a real sturdy material from where from where your surroundings are. But for like best results is that yeah, that if anything they only spend about, if anything, 45 seconds to look at the storm, if anything, and then get to a safe location. So you're like wondering to where that a lot of times is that how we handle weather patterns, and especially whenever the sirens go off. And I know a couple of times before that around here that it's like yeah, you hear the sirens go off, and last thing that I'm going to think about is like, oh no, I'm not going to grab a radio, or I'm not going to grab a first aid kit. I'm going to go ahead and get a camera and maybe get some footages of it. But then if they say that take shelter, and especially that any weather, if it's going to be high winds, or if it's a nickel or quarter size hail coming down, or if it's going to be anything real dangerous, and knowing about it is like when to take shelter. So but anyway, but there you have it right there. Is like for the weather shelter safety. Did I say talk about say for the lowest floor of the building, you bring supplies and study a location, a sturdy location away from windows. It's like you do studies about for what we need, for what we need to do. But other than that, I talk about here, talk about for the weather safety, weather shelter safety. So thanks for watching.